Alright, I want to share with you guys a little issue I was having with the X95 and what I did to mitigate that issue. So I want your guys' feedback on this. Have you experienced this? If you have, would you be willing to try this? Obviously, I could take no responsibility for you damaging your equipment or anything else, although what I'm about to show you it's not really a big deal. But I am going to relay this information to IWI, but I want to hear from you guys if you've experienced any of this, and if you have, and you try what I'm about to show you, if you would give me some feedback on did it help your issue if you were having the issue or not. Alright, so first off, we'll go with the first issue I had, and it's not really per se a problem. But I started having a couple failures to eject when I was running just some cheap steel case ammo. However, I let the gun go a couple range sessions without cleaning, so I just figured, hey, the chamber's getting dirty, which really was the majority of the case. However, after looking at it, I was basically, what I came to the conclusion to is that the extractor was simply slipping off the rim a little early, and so even though the round was extracting from the chamber, the shell case, it was sort of just bouncing around inside the receiver, and it would cause a malfunction. Not a typical stovepipe, but more of a double feed looking malfunction. So what I did was, after doing a little research, I found out that the Tavor X95s, this is the same components, can accept AR extractor springs. And what they have in here as stock is a little polymer, it's a green polymer ball, if you would, a little nipple looking thing, instead of an actual spring. So I saw some guys were having issues with extraction when they were running suppressors, some other things, and it kind of looked similar to what I had. So I thought, well, hey, I wonder maybe the increased bolt velocity of a suppressor, if the extractor was just losing grip on the case and a little early and not allowing the shell case to kick out, and instead it sort of just bounce around your receiver, and voila, you have a malfunction. So what I did was I got a Bcm Extractor Upgrade Kit. That's the spring, the little rubber nipple, and the crane O-ring. And I installed all of it in my bolt, and it all fit just fine. And I've been shooting this now for over 500 rounds now, in several different range sessions with steel cased ammo. I have not been cleaning the gun intentionally to get the chamber nice and dirty to see if I could replicate the situation before. And up until about round count 400, I started seeing some ejection patterns that were looking spotty. And when I would shoot the like the Spear Gold nickel-plated case, where the cases were filthy as they were coming out. Normally they don't have that much carbon gook on them, but so the chamber obviously has gotten very filthy. And if you guys don't know, if you run steel cased ammo, you know it builds up carbon in the chamber more because it doesn't seal as well. And what happens is you can normally sit in one range session and just fire away, not as big of a deal. But if you don't clean that rifle and you do multiple range sessions over and over a longer period of time, that layer of carbon keeps adding to and hardening and adding to and hardening, and eventually it can start causing failures to extract. You can see this with ARs, for AKs, it really doesn't matter. So obviously the immediate solution is just to clean your chamber, but I wanted to see if this would increase the extraction reliability. And after about 400 rounds, I started seeing some wonky ejection patterns, and about round count 450, we started having not failures to extract, failures to eject, but actually the bolt was not kicking back far enough to pick up the next round out of the magazine. So it was actually ejecting the spent case, but the bolt wasn't coming far enough back. So we added some CLP to the bolt and carrier, and that solved that issue right there, and just kept shooting. And we finally got to the point where we're well over 500 rounds now, and no issues at all. So I really think the Bcm Extractor Upgrade Kit put into the Tavor bolt is a If you're having ejection extraction problems, maybe if you're shooting with a suppressor and you're kind of getting the weird malfunction, sometimes even the case will turn backwards and be stovepipe backwards in your ejection port. Maybe give this a shot and see if that helps you out. It certainly does seem to have improved my extraction reliability. As I said, I've had zero malfunctions since I've installed this. The only thing it says our carrier started getting a little slow after a high round count, and we just had to lube it a bit, and we were back in action. But so easy thing to try out. You install this the same way you would on an AR. So yeah, go ahead and give it a try. Give me some feedback if you decide to do it. Did it help you out? Or have you even experienced any of this before? Or is all your equipment working flawlessly? All right, the next thing, and this one was a little more troubling, was I had a couple slam fires. Basically, the rifle doubled. I know it wasn't the trigger. I've checked the trigger. I think actually looking at this trigger mechanism, it looks like there's actually a half cock notch in here, so which I assume is a drop safety. I'm not quite sure how. I haven't gone that far into seeing how all the components, when you place the weapon on safe, if it actually locks your hammer and sear and all, or is it just blocking the trigger? But it looks like it actually has a drop safety. I don't see this as being a bump fire. And not only that, the speed at which the rounds went off was actually too quick to be. It was instantaneous, almost fire, and in a second shot, just instantaneously, virtually. Also, the primer on the bottom of the case had some signs of pressure, which would indicate the bolt was not fully locked up when the round went off. Now, it didn't cause any damage, nothing like that. It didn't even cause a malfunction. It was just basically as if you fired a burst, 2-round burst. But that's kind of disconcerting on a rifle like this. So what I did was, in looking at chambering rounds after shooting and everything else, and looking at unfired cartridges, you have the dimple on the primer, just like you would with an AR. However, it appeared to be deeper than with an AR. Now, this firing pin is certainly heavier than the AR firing pin, so it definitely has more momentum, inertia coming back forward. And, of course, the X95 Tavor is spring-loaded. However, well, that's why it's spring-loaded, but I guess if you didn't have that, you'd probably just go full auto. But, however, it really feels like this spring could be beefed up a little, honestly. So I looked around and I couldn't find any other firing pin springs that would fit this or anything. So what I did is I just got an extra firing pin spring, X95 Tavor firing pin spring, and I simply started cutting off coils until I got to where I can add, in this case it's 3 coils, add it to the original firing pin like so, and the firing pin would still make full travel with the extra 3 coils, and no issues, no failures to fire. There's more than enough hammer spring here to get the job done, and no more doubling or anything of that nature. So again, what I did was I took a standard spring, which looks like this. I hope you can see this, and there's on the standard spring you have 2 closed ends, so it doesn't matter which way it goes on. However, if you cut the spring, which in this case I cut it back to 3 coils, you will have 1 closed end and 1 open end. So I filed the open end rather smooth, so it wasn't jagged, and I bent it inward and downward slightly so that it wouldn't stick out and scrape inside the bolt carrier or the bolt. And also I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to actually scrape on the firing pin. So as you see, it slides right on just like the regular, so there's no binding, no scraping, nothing like that. And what I did was I mated the closed end of the cut firing pin spring to the closed end of the standard spring. Well, obviously it's closed on both ends. So the closed end of the cut firing pin spring to your standard spring, just like so. And you'll actually see it nestles together, and you really can't even tell it's 2 springs. And then, of course, the open end goes inside the bolt. And as I said, I've had absolutely no issues doing this. No failures to fire from a light primer strike or anything like that. No doubling. I've had 0 issues. So I am going to relay this information to IWI about the rifle doubling, and because I really think that this thing could use a stronger firing pin spring. I see no reason not to. Again, it caused no functioning issues whatsoever, and we were intentionally abusing the gun basically at this point without cleaning it over multiple range sessions and whatnot. We used military M855 ball, Wolf, you name it, no light firing pin strikes, everything looked perfect. And of course, no more doubling. So that's what I did to strengthen the firing pin spring in this. It's worked flawlessly. And if you guys have experienced a slam fire or double in your Tavor X95, please comment down below. Let me know if you're willing to try this, and if you get back to us to see if it helps. I am going to relay this information IWI, but I would obviously like your feedback if you've had any experience with this or had this happen, because this is definitely something that IWI needs to be aware of in order to correct. There's not really that many of these rifles out there, so it's possible, you know, in the grand scheme compared to AR, so it's possible that people maybe had these kind of issues and they just never reported it. Maybe they thought they just bump fired the trigger, or just overall just wasn't that big of a deal to them. I did read early on that the Tavor had slam fire issues because it didn't, I guess, originally didn't have the firing pin spring. So yeah, anyway, that was the main concerns that I had. Both are easy to correct, have been corrected. The gun is running good, but I really want your guys' feedback on this. I want to know if you've had this happen, if you're willing to try this. If you do try it, get back with me. Let me know how it turned out for you. And I am going to be passing this on to IWI, and I'll try to keep everybody in the loop with that as well. So we're going to do a little bit of shooting, and then we're going to close this video out. So stay tuned. All right, we're downrange. We're about 470-ish yards from our steel target. It's a IPSC size steel target. We're going to try to put some rounds on it with the X95 using the Primary Arms 5-power prism with ACSS reticle and some 64 grain gold dot ammo. So let's go ahead and see how this does. Alright, so that was 10 rounds. Sounded like we hit with all of them. We'll have to go down and take a look. I highly doubt you'll be able to hear it on the camera because I can barely hear it with my electronic ear probe, but from what it looked like with the the way the dirt splashed at the bottom of the steel from when it splattered, looked like they were all hits. So let's go down and take a look. Alright, we're downrange. We fired off 10 rounds of the Spear Gold Dot 64 grain. It looks like it matched the ACSS reticle fairly well. I was actually holding with the 500-yard marker, but I believe we were around 470-ish. But you know, that round's a little bit slower than what it's calibrated for. I believe it's calibrated for 5.56 M855, and also a little less aerodynamic. So it would stand to reason that we're probably experiencing a little more drop once we get past about 400 yards or so, and that would kind of show up here. But nonetheless, we're able to put all 10 on target. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We had 2 that went a little high. The rest clustered in pretty nicely, actually. And we called the wind. There's a little breeze blowing. That probably explains why some of these are favoring the left on the target. There's a little breeze blowing from right to left. But it wasn't enough to drift us off target. Nonetheless, though, pretty good hits. This is an IPSC size steel target, so you see most of the rounds would have stayed well within the A and C zone. In fact, almost all of them would have had we called the wind right. This one probably wouldn't have. This one might have stayed in the C zone, but still, nonetheless, pretty darn good for what the rifle's intended for. Again, it's not a match grade varmint rifle. Okay, everybody. It's pretty obvious that it's not going to compete with a free-floated AR in accuracy, but it is certainly accurate enough for what its intended purpose is. I mean, I really would have no complaints with this with a service rifle, just laying in the bed of my truck at 470 yards or so, and we're getting pretty solid hits with every shot. So, all right, there you go, guys. If you like the content, if you like what you see, then like and subscribe. Don't forget to share your thoughts, comment down below, and try to keep it professional.